grow up with a NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Well, hello, and welcome back to what's probably going to be our final roundup of the summer vacation, summer hiatus. That is a TurdOrTreasure review show. We've sort of had a sporadic schedule, even more so than we were expecting initially, over the course of the last few weeks of our summer hiatus. And that's because, we've had some review stuff come in. We've been working things left and right. Birdman's been very busy doing some work with radio station over the summer, like summer camp stuff for kids, and he'll probably come back and talk about that and have a lot to say, because I think he's had a really good time, sort of mentoring kids, and he's got some family stuff going on. And the last time we talked, had recorded stuff in preparation for having to go help my mother out because she was having knee replacement surgery and can't be living alone and recovering on her own, and went over, got all prepped to do all that stuff, had her place all set up, and then the surgeon cancels at the last minute when she's literally being wheeled into the OR because of a complication with a previous surgery he had to fix. So that's been pushed back to this coming week. Depending on when this is released, she'll either be in for surgery then or out of surgery. So everything shifted a few weeks, and now I'm basically over, and I'll be helping her out over the next week or two. And because of that, we shifted around when we were going to be releasing some review stuff. This was actually originally, I think, going to come either a little bit earlier or a little bit later. So there's going to be some more stuff in here. Birdman has a bunch of reviews of things that he's been working on in between, vacation time and doing his summer job, and just, he's got a bunch of stuff. I've got a bunch of stuff. I've got a few things that are still in the works that I'm not going to get to initially because of commitments, for family stuff. So we might have another small review show come next week or the week after, that'll basically have everybody up to date with everything that we've done over the summertime as we get closer into the holiday season upcoming in the fall, because we're already getting a lot of talk about, what's your back to school stuff. We've got some reviews that might be included here and might be included in the next one as a back to school guide, and then we've got, weirdly enough, the holiday season coming up fast. But I have a few games to talk about in here, so a lot of little indie ones that we're going to have as a roundup of indie titles. I have a few movies that I'm going to be discussing over the next few shows that I'm just not sure if I'm going to fit them all in here or fit them sort of into a separate one. So it's sort of a hodgepodge here. Beyond that, it's still been crazy hot. We've had nothing but just insanity when it comes to the hottest summer I can think of on record. But in the last couple of weeks, I've gone to see Superman, if I didn't mention that before, Fantastic Four. I also went to see Nobody 2, which was quite fun. That's a good one. That's the one that should be seen in theaters if you can find some like-minded action fans. I also have gone and seen The Naked Gun, and it was actually quite good. I think it was, a well-meaning movie that needed to come out now. We needed a silly, pure comedy. We haven't had those in a very long time. I remember discussing off air with Birdman and the rest of the crew, when did we think the last time that regular comedies, like pure comedies, were doing well in theaters? And it was around 2010. It's been almost between 2010 and 2011, it's almost 15 years. somewhere between 14 to 16 years since we've had like a steady stream of good comedies in theaters. So hopefully it does well enough and we start seeing more and more of that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for, intro, what's been going on. It's just sort of been hustle and bustle here, even though we're technically on break. So with that out of the way, we're going to get into the reviews. We'll sort of alternate between myself and Birdman, and then I'll come back at the end and just give a quick update on the regular programming, because we've got a few different shows scheduled to come out, and then we're fingerprinting ourselves down and pointing at the first week of September as being back, basically after Labor Day. But we'll see how that works. Things might get shifted a tiny bit, but we'll definitely be back, sometime in the beginning of September with our regular live programming when we're back to our regular weekly schedule. So I'm going to see either I'm going to take it away or Birdman will, but we'll be back right at the end.
Hey guys, what's going on? It is I, Mike the Birdman, and our friends over at Razer sent over some really cool stuff because back to school is lurking just around the corner. In fact, as of this recording, I have just come back from a podcast summer camp where I actually had a chance to test some of these things out in the field. So our friends at Razer sent over a couple of Pokemon-themed stuff because, hey, this is their newest collaboration. So I'm going to be looking at the Razer Black Widow V4X Pokemon Edition, the Razer Kraken V4X Pokemon Edition headset, the Razer Cobra Pokemon Edition mouse, and the Razer Gigantus V2 medium-sized mouse pad. So what better place to field test this stuff than with kids? And honestly, my kids loved it. They thought it was so cool. They had a chance to edit their own podcast with a really cute Pikachu-like mouse featuring some of the Kanto starters. That's featuring Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. And, Kanto is my region, the original 151. I shall hear none of anything else, although I am kind of partial to Johto. No, this was really, really fantastic. Now, this mouse is the Cobra mouse. I reviewed something like this pretty much exactly the same with the Minecraft edition, which I use on my laptop to write, but I haven't had a chance to really test it in a high-stress environment, so having a chance to use it the entire week to edit podcasts with my kids was utterly fantastic, was a really solid and recommended experience. I could do precision work on it. Honestly, I expect no less from Razer, so yeah, ultimately I can give a massive thumbs up to the Razer Cobra mouse. You can find that retailing for about $59.99 USD. Make sure to check places such as Razer.com, but also selected retailers in the US, Latin America, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Now, at home, on my personal computer, I switched from my Minecraft keyboard, which I was really digging the vibe. But guys, I am one of the most prolific Pokemon Go players in my region, so of course I had to give the Razer Black Widow V4X Pokemon Edition keyboard for a whirl. Same mechanical keyboard that I've reviewed before with the Minecraft Edition one, but again, this features the Kanto Edition starters. I've really kind of gotten used to these mechanical keyboards for typing. I find them tremendously fun to use just because it's really good tactile feedback. And when I'm writing, it forces my attention down. And now that I'm doing a lot more PC gaming, since Alex the engineer has built me a new computer, again, finding a new appreciation for this stuff, really do appreciate it. So again, very solid keyboard. If you liked my review of the Minecraft one, you will definitely dig this one if you are indeed a Pokemon master and are looking for those gym badges out in Kanto. The next thing we're going to be taking a look is the Razer Kraken V4X Pokemon Edition headset. Again, very similar to the Minecraft one. This has the Kanto starters featuring on the kind of head strap, is RGB lighting supported, but this is much like the Minecraft one, USB plug-in. So this is not wireless, but there is an adapter where you can go to a normal USB or to the USB-C. I was going to use this on my iPhone this week. Unfortunately, my OtterBox kind of stops that, but I did have a chance to test this with my laptop featuring those wonderful 40mm drivers. I was listening, oddly enough, to the Pokemon to be a Master CD. If you know what that is, well, you're just about as big a dork as me. Again, fairly pleased, very much happy with the audio. I find the wired headsets from Razer do tend to sound a little bit better as opposed to their wireless compatriots, but I do like the look of the wireless ones a little bit more. I just think they look cool, and my Hello Kitty ones are typically my everyday driver that I wear around during the wintertime when I don't want to wear my AirPods and my ears tend to freeze and my earpods fall out. Finally, the last thing I had a chance to look at, because I've kind of been redoing my desk as I've been writing stuff this past summer, is the Gigantus V2, and this is their Pokemon Edition mousepad. Again, featuring the same Kanto print, except it has a giant picture of Pikachu right in the middle of it. I love the texture of this mousepad. I actually do find my mouse does track a lot faster over this material, and I do have my two mouse pads side by side. I have the Firefly, which is the light up surface, and I do have my Gigantus off to the side. I tend to put my laptop on my Firefly, and I use my Gigantus as my everyday mouse pad, and I really do like it. It's quiet, it's slick, it's smooth. I will say be careful getting grime on this because the Pokemon print is so vibrant. I really wouldn't want you to mess that up, and I can imagine cleaning it wouldn't be too hard. I would say warm, soapy water, and you'd probably get most things out, but you wouldn't want to ruin the texture from this. But every gamer has gamer hands. You know what I'm talking about out there. So clean your hands, wash them. Hey, we all live in a post-COVID world. Washing your hands, you should always do it anyway, and always wash your mouse, because hey, you want to keep those things nice and going for as long as I possibly can. So yeah, am I very happy with the Razer collection from Pokemon? Yeah, I really think it's cool. Out of everything I used this week, that was probably my favorite. I'm probably going to say the Razer Cobra mouse was the nicest. I think it actually has a better texture to it than my Minecraft mouse, and I don't know whether that's purely psychological or not. If you're in the market for a new keyboard, if you really want the profile of the Black Widow V4X, the Pokemon one is really nice, and I really recommend you jump on these because these collaborations don't tend to last too long. So you know how bad the Pokemon market is when they start to mark up really cool collaborations. So don't wait around. And again, I'm sure Razer will do something else in terms of really cool collaboration. So make sure you are constantly checking their social media. You may see something really cool pop up on there from time to time. And hey, they've been pretty good with sending us everything so far. So I'm sure we'll have most cool stuff in our holiday gift guide, which we will be airing later on this year. So like I said, ultimately, if you're in the market for a keyboard, it's pretty cool. If you already have a previous edition of the Black Widow V4X, you do not need to upgrade. Again, this is pretty much for the print and the collaboration. The Kraken, fantastic headset. Again, very much the same as the Minecraft one. If you need a new headset, it's not too bad. The mouse, I really recommend. In fact, this is a nice mouse that I'm traveling with every day in my laptop bag. I think it's great. And again, if you're in the market for a new mouse pad, in terms of collaborations, this is pretty solid.
Our friends at Bandai Namco gave me the opportunity to check out Towa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree early as part of an early press preview event. I got to play for a few hours, and it's basically lets you sort of start out at the beginning of the game. I'll say this right now, we're not doing anything spoilerish. There won't be anything discussing the story in here. That would be something that if we do, it would be something if we get the full review of the game and a full copy to review. I received the ability to play this on PC via Steam, and I can say that with my computer setup, which is the 12th gen, so a few years old, 12th gen i7 with a 3080 Ti, which is overkill for this game, but still, that's sort of, that's basically a mid-range card nowadays, considering how expensive and how high-end the cards are getting. I was able to max it out. I'm running it on a television, a 65-inch TV, which is at 4K, 60 hertz, 60 FPS, maxed out settings, no struggles there whatsoever. It's not the most graphically demanding game out there. It's, I would say, able to scale quite well to whatever resolution and and tech you need because of the art style. So there is, there's no struggles that you're going to have with this, and I know that can be a concern, is latency and everything when it comes to like a roguelike type game like this. And there isn't really a way to say, to give a preview for this without saying, yes, it's got a similar style and feel to something like a Hades. And that's because that sort of has become the like industry leader when it comes to, what everybody wants to aspire to when it comes to the style of game, at least currently. So, that's not a bad thing to do. I can get my biases out of the way. I'm not usually big into roguelike games. I am, somebody, I like a straight narrative. I like playing, a game, once. I don't like dying and repeating. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my best to go into this preview and go, okay, knowing that that's not usually my style of game, impress me. And I can say that it has. It's so far, I've had a pretty good time with it. I not being a fan of the style of gameplay usually led me to go, okay, reevaluate my thinking. If I normally would not like something, is it because it's my personal bias, or is it because there's anything wrong with the game? And I can say that it's a very solid presentation. I was a little worried at first. I'm like, oh, am I going to die too quickly? And I did die. And then I went, oh, so it slowly reveals gameplay elements and plots. It's expecting you to die. Like, I don't think it would ever be possible. I mean, okay, I say that. I don't think it'd ever be possible for me to do a single playthrough or single run or 2 runs and beat it and beat the game as is. I mean, if you do that, it'd be amazing. I'd watch a streamer do that. I could never have that ability or stress level on myself. But basically, you can die a whole bunch of times, and doing so, you'll get to keep some of the items that you received throughout the run. You'll lose the power-ups that you have for your character. And the basic drill when it comes to how these work is you go through different pathways through each level, and in doing that, you can and clearing boards, you basically unlock extra power-ups that then will help you defeat a boss or mid-boss and move on to the next path. And then if you die, you lose those, go back to 0. But any of the currency that you've earned, any of the items that you've earned, that can be used and refined into making new weapons or upgrading your character's abilities, those get to be kept for the next run. So you get more and more powerful each time you do it. So I know that's explaining, the obvious to people, but that's just the basic run-up. You are basically a chosen character, a chosen one, chosen by the gods to protect this village and rid the land of the evil. Standard plot, nothing to write home about there. You have multiple characters that you're partnered with, and the idea is you select 2 different characters, one that will be your sword. And I'm not going to get into all the lore and all the details of all the different, differences between the naming conventions, because it can get pretty dense when it comes to that. But basically, you have a character that you control as your main sword user, and then you have a character that uses magic, and they share a HP pool. So when they die, they die. But the idea is, you can go into battle. You have 2 swords with the main character, and then as the durability goes down, when it empties, you have to switch weapons and start using the second sword. And each sword has a slightly different power associated with it. And then you also have magic that is automatically used by the secondary character, and you can switch between a couple spells that they have equipped. Again, things unlock that you can customize along the way to change up which spells that you're using. It is much better to dodge enemies than go in head first, obviously. And then when you're in town, you can craft new swords through a mini game process that is like a few different slight mini games that you're moving the analog stick around to the right position, or you're memorizing a pathway to hammer in the right direction, that sort of stuff. Doing so will give you more durability for the weapon, which can then be used to refine down into either having more attack of a basic attack, more of a quick change attack, or more powerful in your like weapon limit break sort of attacks. That's the basic gist of it. And some of the terminology that you're going to want to know is there's Tsurugi. That is the name of the sword character that will be the one controlling the blades. And then there is the Kagura character, which is the character that has the staff or does the magical weapons. You can sort of swap characters around as much. I basically played almost everything as two characters because I found them to be the strongest and most interesting. There's a lot of anime tropes in here. It's not the most innovative when it comes to the writing. If I have any critiques of my preview so far, it's that it's a fairly generic story. It's a fairly generic anime. It's like anime the game, if that makes sense. There's not a lot of creativity or very deep, like there's not a lot of deep storytelling here with a deep narrative. It is like a lot of the anime games just saw Hades and went, well, let's do that, but they don't necessarily have the deep, rich storytelling of it. And again, that could change as you get farther in because I only had a few hours to play. But if I have any complaints, it's that this is going to be great for people that love this style of game. It's not going to be the most innovative when it comes to the storytelling element. But it does have a good town lore that you go back to each time. That there's interesting characters there that you can talk to, and it has a really pleasant feel, good music. The visuals are pretty crisp. There are some areas that can make it a little harder to make out differentiations between the enemies and your characters, but for the most part, it's a pretty good artistic style and appeal. There is a story mode, which is the easier mode for it. It's not easy. You'll still die a bazillion times, and it will get frustrating. It does make it a little less hard to get into for newer players, but if you think it's going to mitigate and change what is at the core of the gameplay, it's not going to do that, but it will make it slightly more forgiving for you. So I think if you're not already like a hardcore roguelike player, you'll want to turn on story mode to start, and then you can always change it from there if you want to. As far as other abilities and things you could do in the game, there's a fishing minigame that was really frustrating at first because every fishing game I've ever done before in a game, when you drop your line, when you first feel the rumble of a fish going to bite, your instinct is to press the reel in button, which is literally every game I've ever played. This is the only one where the rumble happens a couple of seconds before the indicator to reel it in. So I spent way too long making mistakes of constantly pressing the wrong button at the wrong time because of just the way they designed it. And I honestly think that's my biggest complaint, is a poor design of, they went and changed the way mini games for fishing mini games work that have worked. Basically, it's different than every fishing mini game ever, and it doesn't make any sense to me as to why. But okay, that's my little gripe out of the way. That out of the way, I did have a pretty good time with it. I had a better time playing it than I think I've ever had with this style of game before. And it's not going to blow you away. It's not like the most, revolutionary thing out there ever. What it is it's a pretty solid Bandai Namco style game in the vein of a roguelike, like a Hades or that style of game. Now, that being said, is it something that I would, based on this preview, recommend for, a full price game? Well, I don't know, because again, we haven't had a chance to check out the full game yet. But also, if you look online, depending on your store you're looking at, it's not a full retail game. It's basically like half a retail price, depending on the country and region that you're in. So that can also alter the value proposition in my head into making me think, it's probably worth checking out. We'll know for sure if we get a full copy for review eventually. But as it stands for the preview, I was actually pretty impressed. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't like roguelikes really at all. Like, traditionally, I have not liked them. And I went, you know what? Let's give this a go and see if I like it. And you know what? I had a pretty good time with it. Alex, the producer here, and we are on our summer break. We are still on our summer break, and I'm here just to basically talk briefly and give little reviews / previews / first impressions of some of the smaller indie titles that have come in since the last time we did one of these that I've had a chance to check out, and that wouldn't be able to get a chance to have a full-blown review because we're not really on our production schedule right now, but we did want to talk about them. I have received Victory Heat Rally for review. This was provided free for review on Steam. This is a game I had my eye on for quite some time. It is an arcade racing game in the style of what you would see on like the Neo Geo back in the day. Chibi graphics, big, bright, beautiful sprites with like mode scaling, like almost like Mode 7 stuff that you'd see on the Super Nintendo, but like more advanced scaling that way. Sort of that hybrid between 3D and 2D graphics of the era of like the early to mid 90s arcade. Very, very colorful, flashy, fun, looks beautiful, has an option to turn on like graphical warping, so it gives it that early 3D rendered tech where there'd be like mistakes almost in how things are rendered, where they weren't as accurate as they should be, but it gives it that sort of wobble. And audio is good, controls are good. The variety in it isn't as great as you might hope, like as far as the gameplay or the I guess racing layouts, but overall very, very solid indie release. Also runs on basically any hardware you can think of, so I've had no issues with it. That made me very happy that it's just something that's solid and just works great. Very, very much recommended if you like arcade racers, which there's been a fair lack of lately. But yeah, it's on it's on PC. I believe it's also on, I think, Switch, but I received a code for PC, so check it out. One of the other games here that I want to talk about is let me see here, is Artist Impact. That is an RPG with a fun-looking, interesting art style. It's almost like hand-drawn, but like pixel art, hybrid-y. There's a lot of cool aspects to it. It's got an interesting battle system. I'm not super duper far in it yet, but I'm taking my time working my way through it. This is also a review code that was provided on Steam, and it has a really good vibe to it. It's probably the best way to describe it. The audio fits well. The visuals are, not what I would say stunning, but they are beautiful in their own right. And I do think that it has an interesting battle system and interesting mechanics overall. Probably come back and do a proper review or discuss it later on when we get closer to the fall guides, because I do think this is going to make our list for, like we have an indie list sometimes we put together of like, what would you like, what should you get somebody for Christmas? This is going to probably be one of those ones, because I do think it's a very, very good game overall. And the other RPG I wanted to talk about here is Off. This was released, how long ago was this? The last 15, 20 years, I think, originally, and it's got a full remaster. This is one of the first indie RPGs that came out that was really inspirational to stuff like Undertale. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think this was originally designed in like RPG Maker or some other designer tool like that. And then, that sort of inspired a whole generation of indie RPGs. And it's pretty good. It's an interesting game. I do think it's great that it's been, remastered, remade, whatever you want to call it, for, modern platforms, modern PCs. And it's got a brand new battle system from what it originally had. Completely, rebalanced. It's also got new areas, hidden bosses, so that they've done a fair bit to this, and I think it holds up to what the fans would have wanted from the fans of the original. I've had a pretty good time playing it. Visually, if you've liked games that I mentioned like Undertale and that, the modern looking style of the quirky indie JRPG or RPG style, that's what you're getting here. With interesting story, I would say controls are as concise as they need to be. Audio, matches the vibe that you're getting from this, and I think it's a pretty fun time. I think you're going to have a good time with it. It's not like it requires a lot of horsepower to run. It'll basically run on a potato, and that's good because you can run it on anything. If you have like a Steam Deck or something like that, it'll run no problem. Battery wise, you can run this on a laptop and you won't have any issues with it at all. And I've just been playing it on my PC, which is way overpowered for what it is, but I've had a good time playing it bit by bit, a little bit each day. And I do think that this is one that I can see why it was so influential, and I do believe that a lot of people will have a good time playing it. And the final thing I want to talk about here in our sort of roundup discussion is one of my favorite games of the last 4 years now, I guess, because when it originally came out, time has been flying, I'll tell you that much. And that is Chained Echoes. You remember Chained Echoes? We talked about it. Made our Game of the Year list when it came out initially. It was one of the best, and still is one of the best indie JRPGs ever made. Well, they had a DLC finally come out, Ashes of Elrond, and I have had a chance to dig into it now for a couple of weeks, and it is more of what I've wanted from it initially. It is a proper expansion. There's over the last little bit, there's been little tweaks in here and there to the actual main game, as is to come with indie stuff over the couple of years. But if you remember when I talked about the original game had a lot of like systems, and some people might have been overwhelmed with what was felt to be like too much almost. It's like you have to be like a pretty hardcore RPG gamer fan, old school guy to get into how much there is to go on in that original version of the game. And I think it's more and more people have now gotten used to that as more of these indie titles are getting deeper and deeper with more systems. And obviously it had a lot going for it. The only thing I didn't personally care for as much with the original main part of the game was I felt that the dialogue and story was just a little bit lacking, and there was a little bit of perhaps the English script wasn't as tight as it could have been, but that was beside the point because the gameplay was so fantastic in the exploration. Well, here, what do you get? This is, it's another proper expansion for a game. I don't think we were actually going to get, but anyway, what you get here is it takes place right before the end of the main game, and so obviously play the original, play the full main game, and then get to this. And when you're preparing for the final fight, you basically get a call for help, and it's going to reveal. I'm not going to spoil anything, but basically it's going to flesh out and reveal some stuff about the lore of the world, if that makes sense. And there's more challenges, and that there's a new playable character, there's new areas to visit, there's over 40 new enemies and bosses, I think, 15 new music tracks, or actually more than that, actually, I think. And there is new equipment, there's new mini games. It's pretty fleshed out, and again, it's actually fairly cheap if you want to get it. Like, I'm playing it on PlayStation, so I can sort of carry my save file into it. But if you're playing it on like PC or anywhere else, you want to get it as an additional download, it's at least in Canadian dollars, $12.99 for the expansion, or you can get it bundled right now if you're getting it on PC for just under $38 with the main game. And again, that's going to be dependent on the region that you're in. So if you're in the States or anywhere else, your pricing will vary based on your region and currency and whatnot. But it's a solid price for the value that you're getting out of it, for sure. It's, again, a great expansion. And the fact that it brought me back in to play it again, play the main game, I was like, oh man, I kind of almost want to start over and start a brand new save file. So I might end up doing that. That might be a project that I do over the Christmas holidays and just do a straight brand new playthrough. so it can remind me of everything about that game, because I had a great time with it, and I do think it's a good expansion that you're going to want to check out. And that's basically it for sort of our roundup of the smaller indie titles that I wanted to talk about. So we might come back with more of these a little later on at the end of the summer, but these are just a few titles that I wanted to make sure that we discussed and said, hey, keep your eye on them because I think you're going to like them. Alex, the producer here with just a quickie review. We are still on our summer break, but that does not mean we're not ready for new tech. And our friends over at EnGenius sent their new cloud-managed 2x2x2 indoor tri-band Wi-Fi 7 AP for us to review. If that sounds familiar, we covered a similar product from them a little while ago, I guess probably a few months ago actually, that was also a power over Ethernet Wi-Fi access point. And this is another one of those prosumer level ones that, again, easy enough for, I would say enthusiast that wants to have really good Wi-Fi to use in their home or home business, or even, an office, a small office business. And, but is also, powerful enough for more enterprise type stuff. Takes a little bit of getting set up just like last time to get used to, but once you understand how their ecosystem works, it's actually pretty simple and straightforward. And as you're setting things up, it's actually step by step, pretty easy to follow. You don't have to be a networking wizard to figure all of this out. But if you want a little bit more in-depth stuff, you can reference our previous review of their previous product. But here, this one also came for my review unit. Like, it comes on its own, and then you're supposed to, power it via Ethernet or get your own adapter for it. In my particular case, I was sent a 2.5 gigabit power over Ethernet adapter. Last time when I reviewed it, I had a gigabit version, so the power, and I was able to, sort of basically max it out with my 2.5 setup at home. This time, having a 2.5 adapter, I got to really sort of see, can I really, put it through its paces? And yeah, it can handle basically the full speed of my network, full speed of my ISP, no issues. I was able, you can mount it on the wall or the ceiling if you want. And, it works just like a charm. It's professional grade stuff, that's for sure. Now, it comes with a 5-year warranty, which is good to have because, as we see nowadays, a lot of things have gotten, chintzier and cheaper when it comes to providing proper warranty. So the fact that it comes with a proper 5-year warranty is good. It is able to provide a pretty consistent signal. They're saying up to 1,250 square feet and up to 500 plus connections to devices. I don't have 500 plus connections to devices to be able to test it, but what I do have is about 15 or so between multiple, handheld different devices, and they're all going to be on different bands. They're, some of them are only going to be Wi-Fi 5, some are Wi-Fi 6. I have, I think, 4 Wi-Fi 7 devices, and I sort of just turned them all on, got them to get updates at the same time, and there was no slowdowns or interference or crosstalk or anything like that. So it's pretty solid that way. If you're somebody that's going to have a lot of connections, the ones that maybe traditionally you want it to be wired up the whole time, the fact that this is, backed, you can use a 2.5 gigabit power over Ethernet adapter and plug this into a modern, higher end home residential, cable or fiber internet connection. Having that, a 2.5 gig as a backbone with Wi-Fi 7, you could potentially eliminate a lot of the wires in your house and just go have one or multiples of these. You could buy a couple of them, mount them up, and you could have like a mesh system that is fantastic and would cover everything with the dedicated speed that you would normally get from a wired connection without any issues whatsoever. Now, it has a lot of security features in there that I can't get into, and we don't need to get into, because that is going probably beyond the scope of what us, a more consumer and like average Joe facing person. We just know that if you want to get into the nitty gritty, this is something you can do, and you can really dial things in for when it comes to firewalls and security through it. But what's interesting is, it is power over Ethernet only, and you have to do it. It doesn't come with an AC adapter, but you can purchase separately if you want. basically any higher end router system now or switch generally has power over Ethernet. If it doesn't, you can buy adapters from them directly that'll work, or basically any third party one will work that way as well. I do think one of the best use cases for something like this is I was talking to my brother and I was like, dude, maybe you should get some of these, or maybe we should try it as a project for you, is like putting one in a shed and putting one in the garage. Something that would technically be maybe too far to, you wouldn't want to run proper Ethernet all the way through, but you can make it an access point, and the thought process is, well, you can get those like power over Ethernet adapters that just plug into the wall power and plug in, and they sort of become like an access point repeater. So having it be wireless to the shed in the backyard and then wireless into the garage. And so we're going to look into doing something like that for him, because of his setup. I live in an apartment, whereas he lives in a house with a proper garage and shed. And he's like, what, that might be a good idea to give like Wi-Fi 7 access to the shed / backyard, and then the garage / project room. So little things to think about. I do think its build quality is fantastic. This is not going to be something that crashes or goes down on you the way that a lot of the consumer level stuff does. And when it comes to, just overall reliability, this is a step above what you get from like a normal consumer grade stuff. But then it's sort of halfway. It's prosumer. It's consumer grade, but also good enough for business or entry level, like almost enterprise stuff. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And if you're looking to do like a major tech upgrade this fall, something that you might want to look into.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman, and once again I am back with some more back to school type picks. These ones coming from our friends over at Ninja. Similar items, but not. I know what I just said is a complete paradox. I just blew your mind. But follow me. So the first item that I'm going to be talking about today comes from Ninja, and this is the Ninja Sip Perfect. This is a 16-ounce travel mug. The one that we got is very jade green, so very Ninja Turtle adjacent. So this thing keeps all hot liquids at the perfect temperature when you want to sip it. So if you're going to bring this thing to Tim Hortons, Starbucks, I don't know, second cup for all I know, it'll keep it at the perfect temperature and for a good chunk of the day. Now, my wife is a teacher, and this is going to serve her really well during the school year. So this way she doesn't have to duck out to the teacher's lounge and constantly reheat her coffee. Now, when she goes to refill it, it's going to stay warm literally the entire day. I'm very impressed with this thing. I've had a chance to have a couple of hot chocolates in this thing, and it works out really, really nice. Now, as you guys know, I do social media for a fan club in the OHL, so that means we're at a lot of hockey games. This thing is going to be really, really useful because, hey, that means I can run by Starbucks before the game and get something that's going to keep hot all through those 3 periods and eventually into victory for our good old team here in Guelph. Yeah, this is also really good if you're going to be going to college or university. Most university campuses have a lot of really nice on-site coffee shops. So being able to bring a really sturdy travel mug that is really going to keep things nice and hot for you the entire day. And it also has this technology that's called Leak Lock that is literally leak-proof, engineered as to not leak, drip, or spill. And this is also very important. You can actually clean these things so well, there's no areas for it to grow mold or to grow any sort of a weird funky smell, because you can disassemble everything necessary to clean this thing. And that's one thing that my wife has definitely noticed during our time with this. So definitely the Ninja Sip Perfect, the 16-ounce travel mug, utterly fantastic. Really looking forward to putting it through its paces during this Canadian upcoming hockey season. But so far, so good. This will keep you busy in Psych 101. So the next cup that I'm going to be talking about is the Ninja Thirsty. This is a 709 milliliter travel bottle, and both of mine are in these dark black colors. And I have one covered in stickers that I use for my G Fuel and my lemonades, anything flavored, like anything that I want to basically that isn't water. And then the other one I keep completely not covered in stickers, and that is my water bottle, so I always know which one is. Now, what I love about this is it keeps cold things cold and stuff carbonated. So if you pour like a root beer in this, which I kind of consider to be the gold standard of good luck keeping that fizzy, this works. And I'm actually surprised how well this keeps things fizzy. It keeps things tremendously cold. Like, we're talking like well over 12 hours. I tend to fall asleep with these things on my desk, and by the time I wake up in the morning, the stuff is still cold. My wife tends to overfill my bottles with ice. They're still cold in the morning. So I am tremendously pleased with that. Now, cool thing to know about these are heavy duty. I'm out in my wheelchair all day, every day, more often than not for 8 hours plus at a time. And if you know anything about me and my travel habits, I'm remarkably tough on anything. I've backed these things into doors. I've dropped them down the stairs. The only thing I haven't done is run over it with my wheelchair. These things have taken a licking and keep on ticking. So far, I'm tremendously impressed with them, just how durable they are. Like I said, incredible tech on these things. I'm tremendously pleased with it. One thing that is also to mention these things, whenever I do go out in the car with my wife, these bottles tend to fit most cup holders. So that's kind of cool to know too. Also, I think this also has a very similar leak lock technology from the last cup that I talked about. And again, because I tend to make a lot of G Fuel and powdered drinks, my wife is able to clean these things really effectively. It's never picked up a weird film or a weird smell, and we're able to effectively clean it so there's no residue left over from when I make all my powdered drinks. And when I'm sipping on my Chug Jug G Fuel, I never have to worry about it ever smelling weird or being unable to clean it. Ultimately, I think it's really awesome. So those are 2 cups that you should check out from our friends over at Ninja. Trust me, I'll be back as I got more stuff for your dorm room and other stuff coming up right here on This Week in Geek.
It's getting to be back to school time, and I guess back to school, back to work, back from vacation, back into the thick of things. And our friends over at Kensington said, hey, would you like to check out some stuff that we've got for back to school for review? And I went, yeah, you know what, let's check it out. In this case, we've got sort of a couple of devices that will get you ready for your new setup for your input devices, and we've got something that will hopefully help relieve your feet. We've got the ProFit Ergo TB550 trackball mouse, which we've talked about one time previously, and this is, still sort of a killer device. It is a multi-connect trackball mouse. They'll list it just as a trackball, but what it is it's a trackball in the shape of a mouse where you use your thumb to control the actual trackball tracking, but then you have your scroll wheel and your multiple mouse button clicks and the DPI buttons and forward and backward buttons that you're used to on a regular ergonomic mouse. But what you get with that is the ability and freedom to put the mouse basically anywhere, and you don't move the physical mouse around, you move your thumb around on the mouse, and that helps with like wrist strain, carpal tunnel, that sort of stuff. It also allows you to use the mouse in tight constrained places. Like if you only have a small area at a desk to work with, that or even if you're working from home, maybe you work from home and you like sit in your living room, you got your work screen is basically a big television, and you're sitting in an armchair or the couch or something, and you want to use a mouse and keyboard. You don't want to necessarily use a laptop. Well, that's where you would use this mouse, and you put it on the arm and you just scroll with your thumb, and you could do things much more comfortably, and you can actually get pretty good and pretty precise with the controls, as you can work with the DPI button on there and just sort of dial in how fast you want it to move around. It also has like 2.4 gigahertz connection if you use the little included dongle, or dual low powered Bluetooth profiles, so you can have up to 3 things connected at once, and then you just sort of swap between profiles by pressing a button on the top. On the bottom is where the DPI button is, and it works quite well. This also has a rechargeable battery built in that if you're charged fully, it says up to 4 months to charge, and I don't doubt it. The newer Bluetooth low profile or low energy profiles are pretty good at being battery conserving. You'll get less battery if you're using 2.4 gigahertz because that's basically connected and sending signal the whole time. Whereas Bluetooth, does have a sort of standby mode for it. Packaging is pretty much all sustainable packaging, which is good too. It is also at the right size that the mouse or the trackball itself will be the right size for small hands. I have very large hands and it feels fine, doesn't feel small, but it also doesn't feel unruly or large for pretty much anybody else. Solid input device. And I do think that if you're concerned with table space or wrist movements, that sort of stuff, arthritis, things like that, it's actually a really, really good input device to use. To go along with it, there is the what they call their multi-device dual wireless compact keyboard. And this is one of the smaller keyboards. For those that don't know, there's different sizes out there. This is the size of keyboard that doesn't have the numerical pad on the right-hand side, like the number pad. So it takes up less space. I'm usually a fan of having the numerical pad, but that does a lot of times limit your real estate on the desk. So again, this is one that is a fairly thin, fairly light, but still sturdy keyboard that allows you to connect up to 3 devices at once. And it's because it's the same thing. You've got your 2.4 gigahertz dongle. You've got then 2 Bluetooth profiles that you can swap between. Works on Windows, iOS, Apple, and Google Chromebooks, that sort of stuff. It has hotkeys, function keys that you can swap between profiles, as well as doing things like media controls on it. It actually includes a couple of AAA batteries, 3-year warranty on it, and the batteries will last you several months, I think, depending on how heavy your use is on it. It is also just very, very well built, sturdy. A lot of times these keyboards will have a built-in lithium battery that you can't replace, and in some cases, if they're larger keyboards, those can be worth it because they can be a large battery that lasts a very long time. But with these smaller, more compact ones, it is actually better in my mind to use AAA or AA batteries like this uses, because you can just buy yourself a few rechargeable batteries if you want, and just pop them in and swap them every few months if you do start to get low. It also has a low battery indicator on it that will let you know when the battery's starting to get low. So you're like, okay, I have a little bit of time to swap it out. It's got the encrypted connection so that somebody's not going to be packet sniffing and stealing your keystrokes or whatever. But yeah, solid device. Again, compact, pairs well with the trackball mouse that we talked about, because that as a good set, if you're going to a new office, you're starting a job, or you need something for school, you need something for homework, that sort of stuff, it's a good device to have, and it's small enough and compact enough that you can switch it off, throw it in a backpack, and take it with you if you need to. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about here for this sort of Kensington back to school, back to work guide, if you're thinking of getting some stuff for yourself, is the Smart Fit Soulmate. That's SOLE Mate Comfort Footrest. This is a footrest that's very, very sturdy. It's plastic with some metal in it and some gel memory foam top that you put down. You can adjust it. You put it down in front of your seating area when you're sitting at a desk, and you put your feet on it, and take your shoes off, put your feet on it, and it does sort of pivot and swivel, and it will help support your legs and help with circulation, as well as just having it being a lot more comfortable on your feet and legs while you're sitting there. A lot less strain when you're sitting there in fatigue. It's had some alterations to previous model they've had, so they're calling it their new look, same quality. Basically, they update the design, but it's a little bit more comfortable. They're calling something with it called Smart Fit. Supports proper ergonomic posture and spinal alignment with reduced leg fatigue. As I mentioned, memory foam pad. The memory foam is really good, very, very good on top of it. It eliminates a lot of the pressure points that happen when you're sitting for a long time, flat-footed at a desk, basically. You can lock the foot pedal in place if you have a specific angle of adjustment that you want to keep it at for height and that. Their bottom has a non-skid rubberized bottom, so that it's not going to scuff up the floor or scrape up your floor below it. It's got a little bit of weight to it too, so it's not going to just fly around on you. But I can see this being like super comfortable for people. If you have like a much wider seating gate though, like if your legs sit, more farther apart, it's not the widest thing in the world, but it's wider than some other ones I've seen. If that's really a concern, you could probably just get a second one and just sort of angle them, one for each leg if you really want to. But I can say that it's one of the most comfortable footrests I've ever, had the pleasure of using. So I do think it would be worth it, especially if you're somebody who needs one, you're sitting at desk for long, long periods of time, coding, working, doing tech support, anything where you're sitting for a long time. Everybody, always has concerns of having a really, really good chair for your back and that, but you'd be surprised how much better your experience can be and your life can be if you have good foot and leg supports as well. So something to think about. We'll put links in the description for you if you're thinking about getting a package together for yourself for either your home office or at work or at school in your dorm or something like that. These are definitely products that you might want to check out. Alex, the producer here, and our friends over at Squishmallows have sent a few little products for us to look at that are for back to school. If you're you got kids that are into the squishies and or if you're just like one of us, we're these adults that are approaching middle age that just like having almost like a little stress toy, or you want something for the cats and dogs to play with, because that's usually what we end up doing with a lot of the ones that we pick up. These are some things to consider. I know that having like little keychains and charms for backpacks and knapsacks and bags and that, and in our case, I think we ended up using a lot of them on like our RPG gamer book bags. These are just little things that you might want to consider as like little fashionista accessories or cool little fun cute accessories to pick up for the back to school season. Not much to talk about except that they're all cute little neat designs. They come in a few different form factors. Like there's the ones I mentioned that have like a little clip that you can make them on into like a keychain or clipping onto a backpack or a bag, or I don't know, you can clip them into your locker. You can do pretty much anything you want with them. And they come in a whole bunch of varieties of cute colors and designs. One of the ones we got here was Weaver the Waffle, which is a 3.5 inch clip-on plush. These are available all at like different stores. These in particular, this one I'm talking about, is available at Indigo, and it's $10. And it looks like a waffle with strawberry and butter and maple syrup on top of it, which is really, really cool. There's also there's like entire play sets you can get on Amazon, and then via Walmart, I believe they have a bunch of these that are like blind boxes, where you basically, it's mystery. You open it up and you can get one of a bunch of random ones inside. I know that's become like a really popular thing with, with just, I guess, toys in general, is having the blind boxes or having the mystery boxes. And you get, one mystery plush. They're priced at about $9. Again, cool little toy, here's back to school or just for yourself as a surprise gift. It's kind of neat. You can pick them up and have a good time with them. They come in a few different sizes and shapes. There's one of them ones here. There's a whole series of them where they look like one toy, and then you can flip them inside out and they become a secondary toy, which is really neat. Presented that to my brother's dog, and she just went, she's a little puppy. She went nuts. She goes, "Oh my God, it's 2 toys in 1." So they're good for everything. And the only reason, like, they're not, meant as like dog or cat toys, but I'll mention that because they're so soft and because there's not like pieces that easily rip off and can be eaten or chewed on the same way, they do, it's not for every animal, but in some cases they end up making really soft toys, and I've noticed that our family pets usually end up with them, and they end up like using them as pillows to sleep on because they're so soft, even the small ones. So that's just a little extra thing you can think of. But yes, there's 3.5 inch clip-on ones. There is Squish-alongs, which is part of that party play set thing that I talked about there previously. And then there is the Flip-A-Mallows. The Flip-A-Mallows are the ones that I talk about where you flip them inside out. And there's micro-sized ones and mystery ones, and those are the ones that are in the blind boxes. There's a few of those. I'm taking actually the blind box ones over to Birdman so he can get a surprise of them. We'll probably post that to social media as well. But again, if you're just looking for something interesting, that, fun little toys, you got kids that are into them, for school, back to school, or for yourself, or for family or pets, or just little gifts, just little gift ideas for the back to school season you might want to consider. I'll throw links in our description for this to the different stores that you can get them at, if you're willing to check them out yourself. And it's the kind of thing where you can walk into the store and they're cheap enough that if you see them on the shelf, you know what, they're sort of like a impulse buy. You can pick them up, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with them. And I think the kids, and in some cases the pets, will like them too. Alex, the producer here, and this is just a quickie review. Our friends over at Sony sent a review copy of Midnight Murder Club, available on the PlayStation 5. Now, I played it on PS5. I believe it's also available on PC via Steam, but for the sake of this quickie review, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 version. Now, what is this? It's produced and developed by Valin Studios. This is one of those one-player versus multiplayer online party games. It's been in early access, I think, for quite some time now, and now we're just getting sort of the final full release. So I've had a chance to sort of check it out, play with some family, and there's a couple different modes here. Basically, it's a horror party game. You're basically in pitch black rooms. You have like flashlights, and you have to search for each other, and you're trying to kill each other. It's mayhem. Check out a YouTube video if you're interested. But as far as my experience with it, I've had a pretty fun time. I laughed and chuckled. It's also a really good value. It's $10 US dollars for the code. And what that does is it also lets you invite up to 5 friends to play with you. All you have to do is have them to download. There is the Midnight Murder Club Guest Pass Edition that they can download, similar to some other games that you might have seen, like It Takes Two and that have had those versions come out. You download those, and then you can play on the PS5, and it has full crossplay. So you can play it because people that have it on PC and vice versa. You can share the room code with them, and they can join you. There's no limitations. There's no expirations on it, and you can just crossplay everything. It's basically, you as the master code owner, you buy once, play with up to 5 friends. It's a pretty good value, honestly. There is in-game proximity chat. If you're playing with friends, you can use the in-game proximity chat instead of Discord, which usually we'll use Discord to play with each other. But if you use the in-game, then what it does is it's immersive, because like you can only hear if people are close enough to you, that sort of thing. You can hear creaks and doors and gunshots. It's very, very interesting. And it's like nerve-wracking, but also fun and exhilarating at the same time. There's a couple different ways you can play the game. There is 2 major modes. There's wildcards, which is, I guess, like the party mode up to 6 people, and Graveyard Shift, which is a co-op player versus environment mode, which you can play solo or with a friend. With wildcards, it's up to 2 to 6 players. You will play cards from a collection that alter the shape and the way each match is played. With each match that you win or lose, you choose a different card to add to your collection. And there's I think 40 or more than 40 cards to collect to do that with. And then in Graveyard Shift, you and a friend, you can team up or you can play it solo. You take on a gauntlet of increasingly more difficult rounds as demons and monsters of the mansion come after you. You can collect golden relics that you can deposit into a vault. There is other secrets and things to find within. And then there's other modes that you can play as well. To those 2 main ones, you have Free for All, Team Deathmatch, Thief in the Night, and Headhunters. It is you can create a lobby code for people to join you and send. There's bright flashes from grenades and that. So if you have light sensitivity, you might want to adjust some settings for that. But other than that, there is also a voice scramble feature, which you can, if you know somebody that is maybe not being the nicest, remember you can turn on voice scramble for them and it makes it all garbled. It's kind of funny, but anyway, I had a good time with it. It is one that, in the past, games like this have charged, I think, too much money for the value proposition for it, but at $10 and then you can just invite a bunch of friends to play with you, it's well worth it. If you're looking for something fun to do, especially in the fall, or it's back to school, it's back to work time. If you're looking for something fun that you can pick up and play, small sessions over the weekends with, if you have a half hour to spare, you can have a pretty good time with it. I do think it's worth checking out, so I'll put a link in the description if you're interested. And again, crossplay between PC and PS5 with full access for, buy once, share codes with your friends to play if they have the guest edition, or if you like it, maybe you and your friends all pick up a copy for $10 a piece, and you can just play. And again, you don't have to worry if you purchase it on PC or you purchase it on PlayStation. You can play and do crossplay with no restrictions whatsoever.
Hey guys, Mike the Birdman returning once again, and hey guys, it's that time of year. It's time to move into your first apartment or your first dorm room. And our friends over at Ninja have got some items that is going to make your cooking journey to be the perfect cooking connoisseur for your roommates, dorm mates, or your partners a little bit easier. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the Ninja Sizzle. This is a smokeless indoor grill. And honestly, this thing has kind of replaced the barbecue. And I like to grill. I love doing fish. I love doing shrimp. My wife, who learned to grill from her dad, did all the hamburgers and hot dogs and steaks and everything. This has literally changed how we do things. Mostly because it's been too damn hot to go outside. Thanks, climate change. But just the fact that this thing has worked so well, it hasn't set off our smoke detector. And I will be willing to fight you in the street. This thing is just as good as a barbecue. Like, we have done steaks, bone-in pork chops, homemade hamburgers. We've even done grilled corn with this thing. It's all turned out tremendously well. Tastes just like it came off the grill outside. And it's really cool because it gives you really awesome instructions for how to do the proper temperature for all types of meat. Super easy to clean because the grill pan comes right out. So you can wash this thing super easy. And you can even throw this thing in the dishwasher, which I'm sure some of you are fortunate to have, but we're not. Wizardry, as it was virtually smokeless, and we have a very sensitive smoke detector that I'm pretty sure it has an anxiety disorder, never went off once. So I'm sure our neighbors love us for having this thing. This thing is really awesome. Cannot recommend this thing enough. The Ninja Sizzle is definitely something you want to have in your cooking arsenal in your first dorm room or your first apartment. Now, something that kind of pairs with this is the Ninja Pro Chef wireless thermometer. So what this is a wireless Bluetooth thermometer. I know, weird, that happens to work really well with the Ninja Sizzle. So you place this probe into the thickest portion of the meat, and you pair it with the Bluetooth on your phone. Me and my wife are both using iPhone 15 and 16 Pro Maxes, paired super easy with the latest iOS. Presume it would do just as well with a Android phone as well, and it worked awesome. So you select your preferred doneness, the type of meat that it is, and then the Ninja wireless thermometer will literally walk you through what you have to do. It will literally tell you, hey, get up, it's time to flip your meat. Tells you what the current internal temperature of this thing is, and approximately how much longer you have until your food's ready. That's really awesome. Like, literally, it takes almost all the guesswork out of this, so Gordon Ramsay will not be screaming in your face, yelling that it's effing raw. Don't worry about that. You got this shit on lockdown. I think that's pretty awesome. Now, literally, my wife is the cook of the house, and she grilled up our anniversary dinners perfectly. Like, dare I say, just as good as the aforementioned Gordon Ramsay. That's right, dude. Shots fired. Phenomenal stuff. And again, didn't set off our anxiety-ridden smoke detector not once since we've had this thing. So now you don't have to guess if your chicken breast is going to be pink or if your pork is pink or anything like that, so you're not going to catch salmonella and die anytime soon. Yeah, this is utterly a game changer. So if you pair the Pro Chef along with the Ninja Sizzle, you are going to do some phenomenal cooking this year. So you can go on to the Food Network, learn all sorts of cool recipes, or you could try some of that stuff on TikTok and see if you happen to die. But ultimately with the Ninja Sizzle and the Pro Chef, you are well equipped on your culinary journey to cooking perfection.
Alex, the producer here, and our friends over at 2K and Hangar 13 have sent a review copy of Mafia: The Old Country for us to check out. This is the fourth game in the Mafia franchise. I have played Mafia 1, and I've owned Mafia 2 and 3. My brother has played all three. His wife has played all three and loves them, of the originals. And, I've now had a chance to check out the fourth one in its entirety. And yeah, I had a really, really good time. Long story short, this is one of the better games I've played this year. And I'm not just saying that, because I'm a big fan of mobster stories. It's just a very well-made game, but it's kept within its own constraints. And what do I mean by that? Like, they're not charging AAA prices for it. It's like the upper tier of AA, if that makes sense. What you have here is, depending on the difficulty you play it at, and your, I guess, how complete you want to do some of the collectible aspects of it. Like there's some, findable, collectible paperwork and things and trinkets and that. If you want to do like a full story playthrough, you're looking at somewhere around 12 hours. Between 12 or between like 11 and 13 hours, I would say, for a playthrough where you're not going out of your way to search for things. And that's actually pretty solid for nowadays for a single player game, especially at the price point, because they didn't include any filler. That it's not padded out with open world stuff that takes forever to fill out a map. It's not the Ubisoft thing. It's not the regular thing where it's like, there's a bazillion things you got to collect and do this. No, there's open zones. Like, they've built a world. You travel around within it, within your constrained, I guess, chapters. And if you go a little too far off the beaten path, it will have a countdown saying you got to get back to the action or it's game over, essentially. And there are areas where you can still explore, you can go back to. It's just you don't get free reign of everything, which in this day and age is actually refreshing. Not every game has to be like that. Not every game has to have a bazillion million stupid collectible things that you have to get, or you have to clear the map. This is, harkens back to the era of like the PS2 and early PS3, and I like that. I think that's actually a really good gameplay design. It also means that in the future, if they decide to make more, either set here or in this style, they can make the games quicker and up to a higher quality of standard. This has some of the best voice acting and scripted events that I've seen, and like camera angles. This is, outside of like the visuals being maybe one step below like the cutting edge, it's one of the best looking single player games I've played in many years, honestly. And the basic plot, I'm not going to get too much into it because it is all story. Story is the big meat and potatoes of this. Is you're playing as a person who was sold into essentially slavery, to a mining company run by the Mafia, or run by one of the families. In I think it's 04 is when it initially takes place, and there is a disaster at the mine, and things happen, and you end up under the care of another Mafia family, where you end up rising through the ranks, and you see the rise and fall of and ebbs and flows of that family, and there's a love story involved. There's the standard stuff you'd like from mobster stuff, like betrayals and victories and fun. There's races. There's horseback riding. There's driving early early gasoline cars, early electricity. Like, this is like, before World War I, but after the Victorian era. It's that sort of stuff going on. And I found it good in that it has just the right amount of dialogue from the NPCs when you're walking around. There is a decent enough variety of weapons. I ended up basically using shotguns the whole time. And, there's different difficulties you can set it at. If you set it to easy or normal, you should be fine with shotguns. With the harder difficulties, you'll have to get a little more used to using long-range weapons and cover fire a little more. It's a lot less, spray and pray. Whereas I found I did die a few times because I was being too, I guess, not careful when running around. But for the most part, if you play it on, and you're looking more for a story-based thing, if you turn it down to easier, you're not going to have too hard of a time. Load times are pretty good. It's being sold for $49.99 US, which in Canada, I think that translates to $69 or between $64 and $69, depending on where you're going, which compared to the $90 or $110 that you're seeing from Nintendo and from other AAA companies, this is a better experience for that price point than I can think of a lot. I can see myself doing another playthrough again, even though I know the story, which is interesting. I'm playing it on PC. I know my brother has just let me know he actually just pre-ordered it and bought it on PlayStation 5 for him and his wife to play. But for me, playing it on PC, I have what would have been a baller-ass PC a few years ago, but it's sort of been hodgepodge together. It's a 12th gen i7 12700K, which is actually the recommended CPU for this, because this does have some visuals that do take advantage of it. I have Windows 11. It has a recommended recommended for 1440p high, which is actually what I ended up playing it at. I had to fiddle around with the settings a bit. It recommended 4K for me, but that just wasn't going to cut it. It was dropping below 30 frames per second. But to get a mostly 60 FPS experience, the recommended PC settings in their individual document sent to me is actually pretty straight on. Interestingly, here is the recommended specs, and I'll compare it to what I have. Windows 10 or 11, I have 11. 32 gigs of RAM, I have 64 gigs in that PC. So I have plenty of headroom in the background for other apps to run. VRAM, 12 gigs of VRAM, that's what I have in my GPU. Processor, i7 12700K, which is exactly what I have. The graphics card, GTX 3080 Ti, which is exactly what I have. And a solid state drive with 55 gigs. And I had that. I put it on an NVMe drive. But the minimum settings to run it on 1080p medium, and I did run that just to see how performance would change, is 16 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of VRAM, and then an i7 9th generation versus 12th. And the graphics card, they're saying a GTX 2070 or 5700 XT. Yeah, I have a Intel Arc A380, and it's just not enough. This game does need more than what an entry-level Intel or entry-level AMD or entry-level 16 series or whatever of the NVIDIA would be able to support. You do really need to have you have to have a moderate card from the last 5 years to make it run properly. If that's something that goes beyond the pale of what you can afford currently or what you have, then as long as you've got an Xbox, a modern series Xbox, or a PlayStation 5, you shouldn't have any trouble, because you get an experience somewhere between the minimum specs that I mentioned here and the recommended specs. You will get an experience somewhere between that if you play it on PlayStation. If you play it on PS5 Pro, I'm assuming it's probably more like the PC recommended, because that's more in line with the GPU and everything that I have. So it's a fairly demanding game, but not crazy enough. If you're willing to drop it to 30 FPS, you can probably get by with middling hardware in between this. But for the most part, it stuck to basically 60 FPS when I was playing, and some heavier scenes would drop down a bit, especially out in the more open stuff when you're racing, that sort of thing. But I had a really good time with this. It had a feel of a game from 20 years ago, but with the modern aesthetics and just quality of life upgrades that you come to expect. It's nice to see this franchise come back. I hope to see plenty more with it. The voice acting was top tier. The motion capture, the emotion that you got from the directing of all of the individual cutscenes, just the atmosphere is top tier, fantastic. Gameplay, there's some of the gameplay loop. It's pretty standard. Like each chapter had a certain loop. Like bosses were all duels with your knife, which kind of got repetitive. There wasn't a big variety in the boss fights. There was some variety in the mission structure, but it's a lot of explore to an area, do stealth mission, do chaos breaks out, do a shooting, attacking, and then do a duel. And that was the loop it did the whole time. And that might just be a budgetary constraint because there wasn't as big a variety as I would have hoped. There's a couple set pieces that do change up the gameplay a little bit. Like I said, there's racing. There's also some parkour-y type stuff you have to do at some parts. Where the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes here is the atmosphere, the story it tells, which is really good and heart-wrenching at points. And just overall, it's a great reintroduction to the series, or introduction for some people, that you can then, after you've played this, you can go back and play the first 3 games, and then hopefully we'll get more from them soon. And again, because it's a shorter game, but also priced at the right price point, and they have like an engine sort of down pat for this, I'm hoping that it's, instead of like waiting 7 to 9 years for another game like we had previously from this franchise, that maybe we can get one, like if we could get a game like this from them every 2.5, 3 years, that would be fantastic. So, fingers crossed, we'll see where it goes. But I do think Mafia: The Old Country is worth picking up, and it's probably going to make some of our game end of the year, game gift guide lists. So keep an eye out for that. But be sure to check it out.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this week, and maybe for the rest of the month. We'll see. We might have another review show, a smaller one, a little later on, just before we come back from our break. But yeah, that's it's been busy. I've had a hard time finding the time, actually, even though we're on break, to gather all this stuff together. But it looks like we've had a pretty good variety over the course of the summer, and it's going to be really interesting in the year when we start to discuss, gift guides and things, because there's been a lot of different things that we've had that, kind of hard to categorize. So we're probably going to have to do our standard stuff where we talk about movies and we talk about games, and then we talk about, toys and that, because Birdman usually has that stuff to talk about. And then now it's also going to be like a hodgepodge of lifestyle and extra things. But what we have coming up for programming is this week we have a new Earth vs. Soup. We have Earth vs. Soup episode 270, Cult of the Cobra. That's a movie from 1955. And then finishing out the month, we have Earth vs. Soup 271, Creature from the Black Lake from 1976. And then probably out right before we start back up again with the regular programming, we'll have Earth vs. Soup episode 272, Astro Zombies from 1968. And that will be, after that, where we should be back to our regular programming schedule, barring anything major changes. But we also have some episodes that we had previously recorded over the summer and prior to that were sort of evergreen topics that we're going to be releasing over the next little bit. The first of which is sometime we're going to slot it in probably this week, is the Future Imperfect episode we did on Total Recall 1990 and the 2012 remake reimagining. We also will have an episode of Twig Random Access Memories on pitching movie ideas. And that was something that was recorded with the boys a little while ago, and it's going to be an interesting listen, I'll tell you that much. We have plenty more coming. We've already got stuff scheduled for the fall when it comes to Halloween month. We're working on the last little bit of that, but we've got a couple weeks worth of programming already done for that. So we've got those, and then a little sneak peek as something that might come probably after we're back. We'll have a loose cannon on Weird Al's movies. So that'll be interesting. And that's pretty much going to do it for us right now, we still got other stuff coming, but we're still hopefully, fingers crossed, being able to take a bit of a break. I'll be on I guess it's not babysitting duty, I guess, helping mom out when she's recovering. Birdman is, I think, finishing up with his summer job, and we'll see when we're able to get back together in person and sort of hash out what we're going to be doing for the rest of the year. But there's plenty of content coming. We know there's a lot of bigger games. We're in the rush that's going to be coming up soon. We're going to be doing a prototype, likely, as Gamescom is starting up this week, likely opening night live, something like that. And Fan Expo is on. There's a bunch of stuff going on. So there's likely to be a prototype episode before we come back from break. I'll bring my equipment with me and see if I can maybe record something if I need to while I'm not at home. And we'll see from there, sort of as the fall and winter starts to shape up. We'll probably do another prototype when there's going to be a next Nintendo Direct, which has got to be in September or something. But beyond that, we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming in a couple weeks' time. So from all of us here at ThisWeekInGeek.net, thanks for sticking it with us over the course of the summer. It's been a bit of a sporadic ride, but we'll be back with, I guess, brand new, fresh takes with Birdman. It'd be nice to record with him in person again later on in the next few weeks right here at ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.